about tonight. This is part 1 of 2. It's a 2-part series that I'm bringing to you. And really quickly, I want to share with you why this topic matters. All right. So I grew up in the financial services industry. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old. I'm 27 now. And that's all I've done. And when I sat down initially with people, what I would do is I would sit down with them and I would talk to them about retirement. I would talk to them about, planning for their future so that they had a nest egg. All right. Now, Mike, what do you think is like the number people are told is retirement age?
65 and a half.
65, 65, 66. Nano, what are you going to say?
I was going to say either 60 or 65.
60 or 65. And that's kind of accurate. What I was teaching people was it's between 60 and 72. Okay. And if you want to make it really early, then you could maybe do it when you're 55. And that's what I would sit down and do. I'd help people put together a plan for wealth. Are we on with the screen here? We should be on. So I would sit down and plan out with people what they were going to do in order to make their nest egg work the way it needs to. And so we'd sit down and look at, all right, well, if you want this much per month and have this size nest egg generating this return, and if you put away this much money per month in the stock market, it's going to get you there. All right. Now, Nano, can you guess when we would sit down with people what we told them they needed to live on? Just take a wild guess.
Probably 4,000 a month.
4,000 a month? Mike, what do you think?
Well, it wasn't a live on. It wasn't on a certain number. It was a percentage.
Percentage? Okay. You're onto something. What was it?
It was like 44% of what they used to make.
60 to 80% of your current income. Okay. So check this out. Nano, are you going to work 40 years of your life to actually have less money than you had when you were working?
Absolutely not.
That sounds like a scam, right? So people are doing this like 40, 50-year thing. And we've talked about in previous classes, they're doing this 40, 50-year thing, relying on a plan, 401k and IRA, that has never successfully retired a generation of human beings before. Like, think about, I want to just repurpose this concept. So Lexi, let's say Elon gets us to where we can go to Mars. Mm-hmm. Would you load up your entire family on the first spaceship?
Probably not.
Why?
Because first of all, it's the first test run. So why would I risk, like all my family lives? And it just, I don't know, I just feel uncomfortable doing that.
Okay. That's what's happening with 401k plans right now. You're going through the test run. Okay. I want you to think about right now, your life savings. We might as well call it a social experiment. We'll see what happens. That's really the outlook. Well, we'll see what happens. See how it pans out. Okay. So we have clients that are different mindset. You might be watching, if you're not a client, where you're like this. You're like, I don't want to wait till I'm 60. Why would I wait till I'm 60? I'm healthy now. I'm young now. I have family now. I want to do stuff today. And more, that's becoming the mindset. So we've got clients that are asking, how do we shorten the time span? Now, before we jump into this, I'm going to dive into behavior mostly tonight. It's going to be financial behavior. But I want to show you these three points. Okay, so I'm going to draw this out. If you're trying to speed the game up with wealth, you have 3 points you can do that with. You can do it with income. So that's the thing you can speed up. You can do it with savings, or you can do it with investments. Now, optimally, you would do it with all 3, but check this out. If I am trying to speed things up, and Nano, you probably know this from being on enough calls with people. What's usually the one that people are like overzealous on when they're thinking about building wealth quickly?
What do you mean when you ask that?
They're like, they have really high expectations and like real, like, oh, you should do all of this for me.
Oh, the 401k, the retirement.
The investments,
yes.
The investments. Nano's dead on. It's the investments. So when I'm talking to people about going fast, they're like, well, it's the investments. I need better investments that produce higher returns. Mike, with what you know, when we raised the return, what did we also raise? That's not an incorrect answer, but the risk, right?
Yeah.
More returns equals usually more risk. So like when we're doing, let's say, a private lending deal, 8% is going to get you a very secure HOA deal that basically the financial system would have to fail, globally for you to not make money on. Okay, that's 8. 12% is going to get you a mobile home park. All right. Now you're going to make money on either one, but the mobile home park is riskier. The collateral is not as great. You have a chance of losing principal. So when you try and pressure your investments in order to get them to go faster, really you're increasing the chance of you losing money. So we don't actually want to do that. Most people, if you're in the in the range where you're starting to invest. Maybe you've done some real estate deals. Maybe you've looked at the sacred account. Maybe you have a couple $100,000 that you're ready to go play with, and you're like measuring the return and your expectation is unreasonably high. Realize you could go get those returns, and there's a high chance that you're going to lose money if you do it. Okay, number one rule of investing, don't lose money. Rule number two is never forget rule number one. So it's not the investments that we want to push harder on. We do want to have good returns. 8 to 12% is great. But as you know, like if I put in 100,000 at 12%, that's $1,000 a month. I'm not wealthy on $1,000 a month. So I see your mindset there and you're like, man, that's too slow. All right, well, even if you got 100% return, that's $100,000 you made, you're still not wealthy. So you're trying to talk about like, you know, quadrupling, like 10xing the money, but really like you're not going to do that with a good, stable investment. You're trying to strike it rich on a startup or a penny stock or small cap garbage. Okay. So now the other thing we could press on is savings. I'm going to save more money. Realize when you have income, that's a pie, right? You only have the income you have. So if you save more and more and more and more of it, eventually you will max out on what you can save. Now, I'm not saying don't save money. I'm saying like 40%, 50%, 60%. That's a good number, but you're not going to get wealthy by saving an extra 20% of your income only. It's a combination of doing that and the investing smart, right? And if you lose money because you were too aggressive, you've got to start that over. So to accelerate the deal, it relies on income. If you're trying to go faster, you need to earn more income at a higher rate, keep a higher rate of that income and invest it wisely where you get stable returns, but you're not overexposed to risk. And to earn more income and do this plan that I'm going to talk about, it comes down to behavior. Okay. That's really what we're talking about. So this is called the speed of wealth. And we're talking about, again, how do I speed up my wealth? How do I go faster? So this first portion. So this is what we look at when people are talking about investments. They're investment focused, but they're not focused on behavior. So part of what we do is we teach that there's a top 1% of wealth statistically, and that top 1% of wealth has done certain things to get where they are. That's why they're called the top 1%. And we believe if we follow what they did, we can get there too. And even if we don't get there, we're going to get way further than anybody else does, because that's the data that we're following. So like there's distinctly a group of people that build wealth, and they build wealth quickly. Then there's another group of people that they either build wealth at a very slow rate or they don't build wealth at all. All right. And I was having this conversation with Lexi the other day. Do you remember with Richard Branson? And I was like, is he a big billionaire or he's just a little billionaire?
Yeah. And I said 3.4 billion is what his net worth is.
And I was like, that's a little billionaire. He's a little billionaire. Okay. And I say that respectfully because I'm not a billionaire yet. But if I'm a billionaire, I want to be like, I'm thinking, Bezos, I'm thinking Buffett, like that's where I want to be at, right? So you think about, what did Buffett do differently than Branson? They're both wealthy, so we're not going to make either of them wrong, but what did Buffett do different than Branson? What did Bezos do differently? And if you really dive into it, there's some mindset there, maybe a little bit of crazy. Okay, but there's also some distinct financial behaviors that they modeled, and you can kind of pick apart and see in all of them. Okay, so when you're watching this, I want you to realize a couple of stats. Again, there's a group that's wealthy, they're making it. There's a group that's going slow or they're not making it at all. So here's where America is at right now. We have 76% of America paycheck to paycheck. Think about that, paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't flip when I do that. Cool. 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved right now. Okay, that's 69% of the people that you see on a regular basis are paycheck to paycheck. 1 out of 5 Americans admit that they don't even own a savings account. Average credit card debt per household is 10 grand. 1 in 4 retirees will postpone at the age of 60. The average retiree will go broke within 10 years. So here's one group. Now, you might be watching some of these stats and you feel like you're in some of them, or you at least know people that are. Check this out. 10% of Americans own 84% of all the wealth. So out of 330 million Americans, 33 million of them own almost all of the wealth, 84% of it. Guys, that is a huge disproportion. Now, you can look at this and be pissed at them and say, that's not right. It should be equal. We should spread it all amongst each other. And I'm going to say something that's going to kind of hurt, but let's say we did do that. We spread it out and everyone gets an equal proportion. The consumers would lose it to the producers immediately. All of them would go spend money on bullshit. And the people who invented the bullshit are the people that have the money right now. You guys would get rid of all of the money again. It would just be a matter of years before all of the wealth went back to the people who started with it because of behavior. It has nothing to do with politics, skin color, gender, any of that stuff. It's all behavior. You behave a certain way with money. These people behave a certain way with money. The reason you are where you are financially is because of how you behave with money. 10% of Americans collect more than 50% of all income. So think about that. And again, you can be pissed and you can say I'm wrong and you can talk about politics and all this other garbage. Ultimately, the stats don't lie. These people are here and these people are here. Which group would you rather be in? And if you'd rather be in the bottom group, we need to not make the bottom group wrong. Instead, we need to study, all right, objectively, how do I get there? And that's really the mindset behind it. And that's a sign of maturity, by the way. If you could study somebody that you maybe don't like or agree with, but you know they're winning, and you're going to pull strategy from them because you know it works, regardless of what your emotions are, that's what makes you successful. That's a key characteristic to this. Now, here's some of the myths. So, Mike, tell me how many of these you heard. The wealthy people inherited all the money. You heard that before? Here's the fact. Roughly 80% of all millionaires are first generation. They did not inherit all the money. Nano, have you heard, well, they won the lottery? Here and there?
Yeah, here and there.
Okay. 70% of all lottery winners go broke. Okay. So the next one is, well, it's race. If you look at literally every single country in the history of man, there was a wealthy guy in one of them. And that guy was that race and that creed and that culture. Race has nothing to do with it. How about gender? We've heard this one that it's gender and that, you know, if you're a woman, you have a disadvantage. Did you guys know 51% of all wealth belongs to women in the US right now? Okay. Like, do you hear about that on the news? You don't hear that at all. Like it's a known fact. Women are usually better with finances than men are. And Nano, how many times you talk to someone and the husband has no clue? Too many times. It's like here, it's almost like, no offense, guys, I'm on your team, but it's almost like when you go to a restaurant and the adults get the menu and the kids get the coloring book, the crayons. It's almost like that. The husband's just clueless. So it's not sex or gender at all. And then the other one is, well, they married into it. So what? That's a sale. You could do it too. Quit hating, like respect the game. All right. So the myths are not real. Like that's not a reason why you're not wealthy. There's no reason why they're there and you're not there other than behavior. They behave a certain way with money and you behave another way with money. Their way works. Your way doesn't. You've got to confront that. So here's the truth. All right. Level playing field. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Every single one of us have the same 24 hours in a day. It does not matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter where you go, you know, to work, you know, all of that stuff is like irrelevant. You have 24 hours in a day. It's about where you spend that time. We all have access to the same information. This is one I used to actually get in arguments with my brother about because he would talk about for a while there, and he's repented of his ways. He was like a Bernie Sanders guy. So for a while, he's like, yeah, man, wealth inequality. And it's like, I don't care where you are, you have an iPhone. If you have an iPhone and you have Google, you can literally know anything. There's no excuse not to know anymore. Okay, now what you use that iPhone for and what you use Google for is up to you. You can watch porn, you can listen to trashy music, you can go on YouTube all day, you can waste your time, or you can realize I've got an opportunity to reach information like nobody else ever has, and I can now get knowledge and information. Okay, you watched cat videos. The wealthy, instead, they learned about balance sheets, behavior. The next one here is we all have to make our own choices and our own priorities. You choose the things you choose on a regular basis. The wealthy choose the things they choose on a regular basis. And I use the word choose for a reason. It's something that you do have free will in. You could say no. Okay, we had a guy that worked for us. This was a number of years back. He couldn't say no to his family. He was self-employed. And to his family, that meant that he was free to give them rides and do chores for them anytime they wanted him to because he didn't have a job. Really, he was trying to start a business. So it was always, hey, can you pick us up? Can you get the kids? Can you do this? Can you do that? And they turned him into the family busboy. Now, again, we have to make our own choices and our own priorities. You've got to think about, where am I going? And if you can't say no to things that get in the way of where you're going, then you're not going to get there. Simple as that. If I'm running a marathon and I get distracted on the second mile by something shiny and I don't finish the marathon, I can't say the marathon was too hard. I just couldn't finish it. All right, here's the next one. We all have the same ability to find opportunity and to educate ourselves. So some people may say like, oh, well, there's opportunities that are given out in some places that you don't get in other places. I'm a firm believer that you hunt for opportunity. Okay, Nano, right now he's celebrating his 1-year anniversary in Alaska. Nano saw opportunity. Was it handed to you or you hunted down? You came up here.
I created into existence. I wrote it down what it would look like, my job, for about a year.
Yeah.
My ideal scenario.
And that's the point, is Nano was very intentional with that. It wasn't like Nano like somehow like pulled up at a gas station, won a scratch ticket that was like, here's your dream job. Like Nano had spent money to go to a conference. Nano invested in him. So like all of that stuff is on purpose. So opportunities just don't pop up out of nowhere. You've actually got to go hunt those things down and create them instead of just expecting someone to hand it to you because you're a good person. I remember when I think I was 17 years old. I remember sitting on the couch thinking about, man, if I could just if I knew a wealthy person and they would just give me $1 million and promise to mentor me, I would be set. And I would do everything they said. I would do all the right things. I just wish I knew that person. Now that I'm in that position where I'm succeeding in business and finances, I would never give the $1 million to me, because that opportunity wouldn't be the same as fighting for it and going through the struggles and stuff. So that's the next one. Here's what we're looking at on this next bullet point. All of the people who have created wealth themselves, so we're going to exclude inheritances and lottery winners. So they created wealth for themselves, did not start with it. And at least one of them, doesn't matter who you are watching today, at least one of them had the same problems as you, the same information as you, the same responsibilities as you, the same skin color as you, the same gender as you, and the same political views as you. In the history of man, there's somebody literally exactly like you that got wealthy. That's just statistics. That there's somebody that way who did it. And here's the thing is, if they did it, there's no reason you couldn't. And the only reason they did is because of the way they behave with finances. They behave a certain way. And the reason I keep using this word behave is behave like that puts you in charge. You're driving the vehicle. You guys remember when you were kids being scolded by your parents, like, hey, that's not good behavior. And they were telling you to act a certain way. So you have to really classify, if I'm not getting the results, I'm not acting the right way. I'm not behaving the right way. I'm not displaying behavior that would create wealth. And it's a tied together kind of thing. What I mean by that is, if it's not happening, then I'm not doing. So it's not like, well, why am I not wealthy? It's like, well, if I'm not wealthy and I'm not making it happen right now, it's because I'm not doing the right things to get there. There's no mystery there. It's like a black and white deal. So that's the truth compared to some of the myths that are out there. All right, so check this out. My story on this. So growing up, I grew up Helena, Montana, moved to Alaska when I was 5. My mom and dad were both divorced. Statistically, that would mean that I just had a reduced chance of being where I'm at right now. We lost our house when I was 8 years old. I thought we were just doing a bunch of construction. Really, we were losing the house. It was being taken away from us, and we were getting all of our stuff out of it. Same year, we lost my mom's car. It says care. We lost my mom's car. So I watched the repo man take the van away. I like to say we were upper lower class. We were classified income-wise below U.S. poverty lines. So, that kind of tells you we weren't wealthy. We weren't saving money. We weren't investing money. We didn't have 401ks. My parents did not have retirement accounts. That's really the position we were in. I remember living on food stamps and surviving on government lunch programs. I was the free lunch kid. Okay, that's where we grew up, right? And that food is terrible, by the way. Anyone else free lunch? Mike, Nano? Yeah. Cardboard pizza? Nasty stuff. We were homeless twice growing up. What is that, Ruffles? So good you can't eat just one? We were homeless twice. We didn't just do it once. We did it twice. And then we had barely 60 kids in my graduating class. I went to Houston High School. The reputation of Houston is, if you're a woman, Houston, Alaska, if you're a girl that goes to that school, the stereotype is that you're going to end up pregnant at 16. And if you're a guy, the stereotype is you're going to end up on drugs or in prison. Like that's pretty much where you fall into. It's not like you're going to be a doctor. It's more like, which prison are you going to go to, man? Like that's kind of where it was. So we didn't have a bunch of like role models, people growing up that were wealthy that we could look and be like, I'm going to do what that guy does. There was nobody like pulling us out of where we were at. Like it was just, that's where we lived. That's what life was like. So I did not go to college, literally had no money. I didn't get a graduation gift of money. I didn't have a college account waiting for me. I didn't have any of that stuff. And I had literally no financial education and majorly struggled with doubt and self-confidence. Okay, and those ones aren't economic. That's just saying, like, you guys see me up here talking. It wasn't, I'm this guy that's always been that way.
Yeah, we have a comment here online saying that by Megan, she said that she hopes it's still not that way. I guess for the Houston High School.
I haven't been back in a while. So that's kind of where we're at with like my story. And the reason I share my story is I'm up here talking. We have a business. We're killing it. We're growing. We're expanding. And it's easy to look at someone that's doing well and not realize there's always a backstory. They started somewhere. Okay, we had just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had an event called Operation Reborn. One of our guests, he runs a business here in Anchorage that does about $2 million a year. And he came up and talked about his story. The guy was adopted because his parents had him in Thailand. So he was not a U.S. citizen. They were military. They had him in Iran. They flew to Thailand, back to his family, didn't want him anymore, and put him up for adoption. He ended up in the U.S., bounced around, and like didn't have a great come up, didn't have a bunch of mentors, and figured out like he could fix cars and turned it into a $2 million a year business that's been around for 20 years now. And if you see him driving around, you might be like, oh yeah, that guy. He's part of the evil people that have money, and you have no idea the struggles he went through to get there. So it's a level playing field. That's really what I want to establish. And there's a quote that I like, and I don't know who said it. So if you know, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Life is like poker. You deal with the hand you have. If you're playing poker, you don't complain about the hand when you get it. If you're a player, you keep a game face on, you keep a poker face on. You don't let anyone know what's going on, and you play to win. That is behavior. Okay, and that's really like what separates. If you're like, man, I'm trying to speed this thing up, I'm drilling on you guys tonight. It's behavior. The way you behave will dictate the speed at which you build wealth. If you are not building wealth fast, it's 100% on your behavior. It's not the economy. It's not politics. It's not the jobs. It's not GDP. It's not any of that stuff. You are your own economy. You behave a certain way with money that creates the results you have, and you've got to really confront, face, and fix that. All right. And I'm sure anybody that's watching this, you have a story. Nano has a story. Mike has a story. Lexi has a story. Guys, Lexi came from the Philippines, third world country, at the age of 11 and then went to Willow, Alaska, which is just basically a gas station with a bunch of cousins. and she's helping run the business. Like, we have figured out, how do we get from where we were to where we want to be at? So everyone has a backstory. Everyone has a reason why they could quit, why they don't have to make it. And you have to really shed that. And I don't care whether you're making $20,000 a year or you're making $20 million a year and trying to go to 200 million. That is your barrier. Your behavior is your barrier. Okay, my behavior is my barrier. If I'm trying to grow my business and myself, I have to constantly adapt my behavior. All right. So here's the thing. Again, behavior is the only difference. I'm going to show you guys some stats. So to be wealthy, and this is considered top 1%, to be in the top 1%, an individual needs to earn $32,270 per month. All right. I made the word earn capitalized for a reason. I used to think earn was a byproduct. Okay. Anyone else ever worked a job like that? At some point, you felt like the paycheck was more like an entitlement and it was almost just given. It's just like you go to work, that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to get paid. There's no control behind it. That's how I used to think about earning. When I started succeeding in business, I realized earn is an action. Earn is causative. It's not effect. It's not, Nano earns this money and a lucky Nano, and I wish I knew how to do what he did. If Nano earns money, it's because Nano earned it. There's a difference between those two things. So the wealthy earn $32,270 a month. It's not handed to them. It's not easy. Most people quit. Okay, I remember when we started making this much money, I couldn't believe it. We had our first $30,000 month. I remember almost losing our vehicles. I remember living in a crappy apartment where we literally had a homeless dude sleeping in the front of the Arctic entryway. Okay, I remember having our vehicles broken into. I remember having our team quit several times. I remember all the stuff we went through, and it seemed like we would never get there. And the first month, I remember like it wasn't even real. And I looked in the account, like over 30K earned that month. And I was like, damn. And it was the same effort. The difference is we just kept on persisting until it happened. And there's not one person that could ever look at that 32,000 and convince me in any way that it was an accident or that I was entitled to it. Because I remember all the work that went into it. I remember all of the stuff that I did that nobody else was willing to do, the drinks I didn't have, the parties I didn't go to, the vacations I didn't take in order to make that income. So when you think earn, I don't want you to think about paycheck. I want you to think about the last time you earned something. The last time you worked hard for something and it paid off and you knew it was yours because you stayed on that target the entire time. That's what I want you to think of. So they earn $32,270 a month. They create at least 7 income streams. Again, I'm using action words here, guys. 7 income streams. They create them. It's, again, not handed to them. It's not these businesses that just pop out your butt and you start earning money. Like, that's not how it works. If you have one of those, you probably want to go to a doctor. You might have an infection. Okay, but it's an income you create. The wealthy have these. They create them. Not only do they create them, they're smart enough not to derail the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth income stream by adding the next one in. That in and of itself is a skill. That's something that I see so many people kill themselves on. If you're going slow, part of it might be that you've got distractions in your income. You've got things that you're focused on that are taking you off the gas pedal, and they might produce little tiny bits and little tiny amounts, and you might feel emotionally attached to them, and you might love them more than the other one, but the other one produces. And sometimes you have to just get rid of it and cut it off, just like pruning a tree. Yes, technically that's a branch and it could bear fruit and it might have something for you. Right now, though, it doesn't. Right now, though, it's dying and it's killing the tree, and you've got to cut that off to have the tree grow. So that's earn and create. The next thing is they keep 40% of their gross income. Nano, how hard is it to keep money?
You're not disciplined. It's hard.
It's hard. There's a reason why they have the phrase, the money's burning a hole in your pocket. All right, think about this. Money is never lost. It's just trading owners. If I lose money on a deal I did with Mike, I didn't lose money. I just gave it to Mike. Mike has the money now. That's how you have to think of it. So the wealthy manage to not only earn and create, but they keep it. And there's 2 degrees of keeping it. There's the degree of I have the money in my pocket and I saved it and I kept putting it aside. And then there's the degree of when I did that, I didn't do anything with it. It stayed there. I didn't get rid of it. I didn't spend it on a TV. I didn't go buy a new vehicle. Like some people, they get their first 10 grand and they can't handle like, oh man, I've got 10 grand. Imagine all the things I could do. And they go blow their wad. Now it's gone. Okay, I also remember my first 10 grand. I was driving down 5th Avenue here in Anchorage, and I looked in my account. We had our first 10 grand. I called Lexi, and I called my manager, and I was like, no one in my family's ever had 10 grand in their bank before. My life's forever changed. Now I look at 10 grand, and I'm like terrified. Like, why is there not money there? It's totally different mindsets. So you have to be able to keep the money. This is all discipline and behavior. Think about the last time you didn't keep money when you know you should have. Everyone has one that pops up. Okay. Now I want you to think about the last time you kept money when it was really hard not to, and you did it anyways. You kept it. You wanted the thing, you wanted to purchase it, and you chose not to. They do that 40% of the time, which is really over 50% of the time because the IRS takes probably 20 of it. So that means that they have a greater, with their net income, they have greater than a 50% batting average on keeping money, meaning, more times than not, they're not spending the money. More times than not, they're not buying the thing. They're keeping it aside and stacking it up. The wealthy invest, and they do it for time, income, and tax reduction. Okay, anyone that's building wealth, and anyone that's doing it fast, by the way, they're not doing it for money. They're doing it for time and freedom. So these people you look at where you're like, oh, all they care about is money. All they're thinking about is this. They're evil. They're this. They're that. Really, they're probably some of the most selfless people because they realize if they have to trade their time for money, they can't do anything for anybody. Okay, I remember being there. I remember when I had to trade time for money. Right now, I run a business, so I do trade time for money growing my business, but now it's my thing. I control it. But I remember when I had to. I was delivering pizza. My mom had cancer. Okay, it was Christmas of 2014, I believe, 2013. I worked Christmas because I couldn't convince my boss to give me the shift off, and I couldn't get any of the other employees to trade. She died on the 28th. That was Christmas that I worked because I had to trade time for money. Think about that. And most people will justify that. Most people will be like, oh, what can you do? You have to have a job. That freaking pissed me off. And that's part of why I'm so passionate and why I have so much fire behind me. Imagine doing that, like knowing that that's what's happening. So wealthy people, they want to free up their time. They don't look at it as money and things that they can have and buy. Most of them, by the time they get there, they've disciplined that urge out of themselves. Think about a decade of saving 40% of your income and saying no to frivolous expenses and not wasting money. You just get conditioned. You act a certain way. You behave a certain way. Right? Nano, you're like that with nutrition, right? You just know certain things you do, certain things you don't do. It's not a problem anymore. It's ingrained. So this myth of wealthy people, all they care about is money, usually because of what they had to do to get there financially, the behaviors they had to model and master, that's like ingrained in their DNA now. They're always going to think and operate that way with money. They're always going to save 40%. So they're not getting there to just buy Lambos. Okay, this isn't Instagram. So the next thing is income. When they invest for income. They're thinking about how do I take my money and make more money because that's how they get the time. All right, and the final one is tax reduction. Okay, the final one they're thinking about, well, if I'm making all this money and every time I make more of it, I get penalized, I need to figure out how do I get rid of that penalty? Because it doesn't make sense that if I make more money, I get penalized by having to pay more in taxes. I'm going to figure out how do I reduce that? So when they spend money, they're thinking about that consciously. They're not thinking about what's going to feel good. Oh, I want sunshine. I want to be around these people. They're thinking about these three things primarily. All right. Now, the next stat, the wealthy, and this is the top CEOs in the country, they read over 60 books a year. 60 books a year. That's more than a book a week. Warren Buffett says on average, he spends over 4 hours per day reading. Before he ever makes an investment, he spends 4 hours reading, researching, studying in order to skill up so that he takes one shot at the right object, knocks it out, and doesn't have to go spray fire at everything. Warren's a sniper. Like the only way you become a sniper is you get really, really good at studying the subject. So again, read 60 books a year. How many of us are even reading 20 books a year? 10 books a year, 5 books a year. How many of us read one? I know people that don't read books. I was one of them. I used to never read books. From the age of, when did we read Gilgamesh? Like 9th grade? So that was the first book where I was like, all right, this is some bullshit. Because at least in middle school, there was still like some Dr. Seuss and like some Diary of the Wimpy Kid, like stuff that's kind of fun to read. Then you get to high school and they're like, Gilgamesh. And you're like, why? And they're like, because of book report. And you're like, okay, but why? Because of a grade. And that was the first time I learned how to scam like the book report. I figured out, read the first page, the last page, couple middle pages, the back summary, pretty much know what the book's about. So then I could type up an entire book report. So I went from probably the age of 13 to 19, never once read a book. Because I figured out how to get around doing that because I didn't see the benefit. So most people are in that boat. And then the wealthy control their emotions regarding money. The wealthy are not emotional with their money. Money, like, and I'll tell you, as a financial professional and a coach working with people with money, it is the thing they get the most emotional over. Okay, you start talking about money and people lose their cool, like 100%. You'll see wealthy people hoarding it like it's like little jelly beans and they're 3 years old and they don't want to share. And then you see these people that don't have any income and they don't want to invest, but then they can justify going to McDonald's tonight, spending $30. It makes no sense. The wealthy do not operate that way. It is 100% objective. Like, they don't see like all of this other, they see digits, they see decimals, they see dollar signs, they see math. That's all they're looking at. So they're not thinking about, man, I really deserve that TV and I've been working so hard and it's on sale and I like the sales guy and he's awesome. They're looking at, that's $900. What would happen if I spent that on Facebook ads instead? Oh, looks like we're not getting a TV. That's how the wealthy think. And then the next thing is the wealthy study financial statements and investments. All right. In my opinion, and this is maybe a harsh opinion, but this is my opinion. In my opinion, nobody has an excuse not to know how to read a financial statement. You can Google a company and pull up their financial statement and study it and figure out what it says with nobody's help and nobody's guidance. And you would be able to figure it out with a dictionary and Google. But the thing is people don't do that. They don't want to, so they don't do it because it's behavior. Okay. I was doing that because that was my job. At the age of 18, someone handed me a mutual fund statement and said, read this. And I had to figure out how to read it. So I figured out how to read it. And then I got curious about the companies on it. So I started reading theirs too. No one suggested like, Jerry, you should really check out financial statements. It was behavior. I was like, man, I want to know about this stuff. I'm going to go put action behind it instead of maybe doing other stuff, maybe spending my time elsewhere. And then they study investments as well. This is the big one. People don't study investments because they just expect they can hand it off to a guy and the guy's going to do the stuff and be able to give them money later. So people don't touch it. Like, you have to do this stuff. You're not going to speed it up if you don't know how to read a financial statement and understand investments. And I'll help you and I'll put the deals together and I'm going to do everything I can do. But at the end of the day, all of my clients know this. I expect you to know what we're doing. This is not you hand the money to Jerry and hope he does a good job. And if he doesn't, you're pissed because you didn't know what was going on. It's, we're doing this deal. We're both understanding it. And I'm going to make sure you know what you're getting into. And if we like the deal, we're doing it and you're in the driver's seat. And I'm just teaching you how to drive. That has to be your mindset. You have to be thinking about, how do I get a bigger grasp and understanding of this stuff? Now, here's some comparison stats. Okay, these are going to shock you guys. So what do we say? The wealthy earn over $32,270 a month. We have those that are either building wealth slowly or not building wealth at all. They earn, again, $53.08 a month. If earning is an action, and one group of people is earning 32,000 and one people group is earning 5,300, Nano, which one is working harder?
32,000.
The 32,000. They're putting in more value. They're getting more out of what they do with their actions on a day-to-day basis. So you have to stop looking at the 5,300 that you make, or maybe you're at the 32,000 and you want to be at 320,000. You have to stop justifying it. You have to stop saying, man, I work hard and these people have it better. You have to realize they do something that makes them more valuable than you. It has nothing to do with, again, your skin color, your gender, any of that stuff. It's they do something in the marketplace that makes them more valuable by a lot. This is the average American's income right now, $5,300 a month. So that means statistically, the average of everyone watching, this is where they're at. You need to figure out, how do I do the earning? How do I get control of the earning and start to really level myself up? Nano has done this for the last year. He's leveled up his income. How hard has that been? Brutal. But it's behavior. Nano comes into work ready to behave a certain way. He doesn't come into work expecting us to like sing Kumbaya and do patty cakes. He's like, man, I'm gonna be on the phone for 6 hours today. That's all I'm going to do. We're not gonna make small talk. The next stat, we talked about the wealthy of 7 flows of income. Those who have no wealth or slow wealth have 1 to 3 sources. Okay, it might be the husband, the wife, and then they got some kind of side hustle or MLM or rental property. Okay, the problem is all of their sources conflict. The husband doesn't do what the wife does. They're totally different streams. The third stream is something totally removed from the first 2. Because of that, they never break through. That's part of the reason why you're going slow. You could be accredited right now and you could be better off than everyone else, and you're going slow from accredited to 10 million because you've gotten involved in stuff that doesn't make sense with where you're going. It doesn't line up. It conflicts. So you've really got to look at that. Now, we talked about the 40% rule. Here's the next one. So the wealthy save 40%. Right now, the US national average on what people save is 7.6% of their gross income. Guys, we're not even batting at kind of 50%. Like we're terrible. We would never get put on the plate with that kind of stat. Okay, like people would go through the bench and they would tell you to grab some Gatorade really quick, and while you're gone, they'd put the next guy up because they don't want you at the bat. That's a terrible batting average. Now, what that shows is people don't know how to say no and they don't have financial control. It's comfort. Like the people who aren't wealthy, they spend for 3 emotions. It's comfort, it's fear, and it's greed. If you're only saving 7.6% of your income, that tells me that you constantly are putting your money towards comfort, fear, and greed. Okay, how do I keep more in just this tiny little savings account so I've got my number and I feel good about it? Or how do I go on a vacation because I need to feel more comfortable? Or how do I buy some Bitcoin real quick and hope it goes up because I'm greedy and I don't want to do the work? Or maybe it's fear. How do I put it all towards credit cards because I'm afraid that if I don't, I'm going to pay some interest. Yet all the money I'm going to spend on interest doesn't even amount to what I'm about to go spend on Disney World. Doesn't make sense. So you've got to look at, this is the way I behave. I've talked to people that are making $30,000 and $40,000 a month, and that is their savings rate still. It's behavior, guys. Like I would rather have a client making $5,300 a month, saving 40% of it, than a client making 10 grand and only saving 7%. The reason why is I know the guy who saves 40 is more disciplined. If I give him a plan, he's going to follow it. The other guy, he's just good at talking and selling. Like that's good. But if you don't have the discipline, like you're going to blow that every single time. It's never going to amount to wealth. It's always going to take too long. Those with slow or no wealth, they spend on fast food, vacation, holidays, houses, vehicles, and personal comfort items. You've got the brand new TV, you've got the brand new couch, you've got the brand new this, the brand new that, but you've got nothing saved up. You've got nothing invested. That's what you're looking at. When you think about like it's going too slow, how much did your house cost? $800,000. Okay, well that's a down payment of probably between 5 and 20% that could have gone to investments instead. But you couldn't handle renting, so you had to go blow it on comfort. Those are the difference makers. It's not this like incredible investment opportunity that everyone just randomly steps into and somehow gets into the top 1%. It's consistently acting this way with money. You've got to do it. Your spouse has got to be on the same page, and you've got to like live this stuff. It's got to be the thing you're 100% involved in. It's not passive. Like you're already being passive with it. It's not working. All right. Now here's the next one. So the people that have slow wealth or no wealth, statistically, national average, read only 1 book a year. All right. So think about if I read 1 book a year about, let's say money, and Mike reads 60 books a year about money, then who's going to be better with money? Money Mike. That's why we call him Money Mike. So how do you expect to get there if you're not educating yourself? Again, it's behavior. Now, this next couple, it almost made me sick when I read it. So those with slow or no wealth, they make money-based decisions on emotions. We already kind of talked about this. Here's the next one. And guys, these are real statistical national average numbers. Those with slow or no wealth, national average, spend 5 hours and 46 minutes per day on television and social media. 5 hours and 46 minutes. Do you realize that's almost as long as you spend at your job? That's 6 hours a day on TV and doing this on a phone.
Probably most of that's at work.
That's probably right. Probably most of that's at work. And that's not even talking about like internet on the computer. It's just social media. Scrolling on Instagram and watching TV is 5 hours and 46 minutes a day. Warren Buffett spends 4 hours a day studying. Most other people spend 4 hours a day watching reality television and stalking their friends on Facebook and reading memes. Like, again, you think about that's studying. You may not think about it like that, but that's studying. You are studying garbage. You're studying stuff that's lowering your intelligence. You're studying stuff that's making you less and less statistically apt to build wealth. Okay, for me, it even comes down to music. I won't listen to music that sings about trash. I don't want to hear about drugs and having sex with a bunch of women. Like, how is that going to help me? Okay, Lexi probably hates that. She'll listen to songs. They're not bad. They're just not purpose-based. It's just like, you guys listen to like chill, casual music. You don't really listen to the lyrics. Okay, I always do. So I'm always like, Lexi, this is a victim song. Turn it off. And she's like, I was just like listening to it for the beat. I was like, yeah, but it's terrible lyrics. Listen to it. I need this. I can't handle it. I'm emotionally distraught. Like, please feel bad for me. Like, that's the kind of lyrics people are listening to. You can't think if you pump that in your head all day long, that it's not going to have some effect on the way you behave. It's going to. So all of this stuff, behavior is the only difference. You can pull like one or two things. Oh, they're lucky, or they're this skin color, or they're this gender. I've got a freaking list, and I had to limit the list. These are all of the things that behaviorally that separate the two sides. So think about, how would you have to behave to go from $5,308 a month to $32,270 a month? Your whole life would have to change. You would go to bed at a different time. You would wake up at a different time. You would go to the gym. You would eat differently. You would spend time around different people. Like, every single thing you do would be different just to do that. Okay. What about having 1 to 3 terrible income sources to having 7 really good ones? And I don't want you to think about the work on that one. I want you to think on that one. I want you to think about the benefit. Nano, where would you be at in life with 7 really good income streams?
With the discipline that I have, will be a much better place.
It'd be pretty dope. And think about, like, these aren't just like, oh, I sell this on the side. These are probably income streams that each and every one of them could support Nano's income. Meaning, if 6 of them died, Nano would still be cool. That's the difference. So think about that. Okay. What would you have to do to go from 7.6% savings rate to 40? More than quadrupling the amount of money you save right now. Like, most people look at that number and they think I'm crazy. They're like, 40%? How do you save 40%? You can't unless you do this too. You're not going to save 40% without boosting up the income. That's a number that, it's called paying yourself first. When you pay yourself first, it terrifies you because you don't have a bunch of money left over and you still got to pay bills and you already had the taxes taken out. So you have to go make more money now. And I'll talk about this effect in just a little bit. This is something that really does help speed things up. I would say the linchpin is that 40% rule. Okay. Now, what would you have to do to stop the fast food, the vacations, the holidays, all the crap people spend on that they think they need because they worked in a mediocre way for almost a year, and then they take 4 weeks off? What if you got rid of that? Like, what would you have to do the rest of the year to not feel like you need 4 weeks on the beach and at Disney World? You would have to work at something you believed in. Like, you actually would have to go to work in a place that energizes you daily instead of draining you at the end of the day. So here's how we speed things up. All right. First step, make the decision. That's a terrible little cross there, but I'm gonna do another underline. Make the decision. All right. Make the decision doesn't mean you got really motivated. I'm gonna do it. It means you literally cut off all of your other options. I like to use the word genocide. You line up all of the options, you pick out the one that you want, and then you commit genocide against all of the rest of them. You kill off every other plan. Not doing this because I can't. I burn that bridge. Not doing this because I can't. I burn that bridge. Okay, anyone in here ever lost a job where you burned the bridge? You're like, I can't go back there. No, we got too good of employees. Someone online is like, I got at least 5 of them. Okay, but it's that where you literally are like, I can't, like, you got that emotional in your gut. You're like, I can't go. It's never an option. Maybe it was with a relationship. Do you have one with a girl? Yeah. So Nano knows what I mean. Like, I can't go back. Like, that's not an option. That's not a thing I can go do. So you have to do that with your other options. All right. So you get rid of everything. You get rid of all distractions. Next, you make more money now. Don't care how you do it, as long as it's legal, ethical, not poisonous. Okay. So this is, again, the 1 to 5 game on your expenses and your possessions. If it's a 1, it was stupid, you get rid of it, you refund the money, or you sell the thing, get the cash back, stick it in savings. 2 was a bad timing. Again, you get rid of it, get the money back, stick it in savings. 3 was a maybe. You're being a coward. You need to make a decision on whether it was a 1 or a 2. 4, it's needed for survival. You keep it. 5, it's generating income or going to, so I'm going to keep that as well. And you do that on everything you spent money on in the last 30 days, and you do that on everything you own. And if you actually did that, you would have thousands of dollars. We have a client that did this probably 2 months ago, and he's like selling his like 4-wheeler, his trailer, his iPhones. He's like, dude, I just made like $6,000 last week. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Instantly go make more money. Okay, so you do that. Now you need to get control of your spending. Again, the 1 to 5 game I just talked about, you could do that every 7 days on your expenses, and you can use the mint.com app, which is free, which again means it's a level playing field. But how many people actually do that? Nano, how many people actually do the 1 to 5 game and actually use Mint?
Very few.
Not very many. I do it every week. I look at Mint every single day, twice a day. I look at the transactions. I look at the account balances. And I'm not bragging. I'm telling you it's behavior. The reason it's behavior is I started doing that when I was broke. And it stuck with me because it was a successful action. Now I can't not do it. It's just ingrained in how I operate. All right. Now, next is saying no to anything that does not move the needle forward. So this is no trips. You're not going on any vacations. You're not doing the family reunion this year. None of that stuff. No outings, no splurges, no friends and family who won't support the goal. If you got friends, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, that's not, and I'm not even talking about like they're not supporting. I mean, they didn't drink the Kool-Aid. If they didn't drink the Kool-Aid, you got to put them off on the side until you get your stuff right. Then you go back. Because if they didn't drink the Kool-Aid, here's what's going to happen. When you get too extreme, they're going to try and rein you back in, and you're going to do it because you're trying to keep that relationship rather than focus on the target. Guys, you can go get the relationship back anytime. You shouldn't have to limit yourself to make somebody happy. If you're not happy because you're not financially free and you're not making it and you're trading time for money and you can't control your future, it doesn't matter what they think about you. Realize they're in that boat and not trying to get out. So if you're not going to do something about it for them, you need to at least do something about it for you so that when something bad happens to them, you can financially be there. You can stroke the check and not think about it because you paid the price no one else was willing to pay. So that's where you're at here. Now, next, step number 5, increase the income permanently. This could mean you add another flow. All right. It could mean you add another one, but ideally you increase it at the same location. You start pumping up that income permanently. So again, this is beyond just the 1 to 5 game. You can't just return stuff forever and make money on it. You're looking at now, how do I sell? How do I start a business? How do I get a bonus at my job? All of this stuff is what you're looking at. And once you've done that, you work up to that 40% rule. How do I save 40% of all of that? And again, we get this from the top 1% of wealth. This is an actual number that we get from them. That's kind of cut off there. You guys get the picture though. So here's what this looks like. This is our blueprint. And this is step-by-step exactly how you go through it. Right now, you're focused on steps 1 through 6. If you're trying to get things to go faster, you're focused on steps 1 through 6. The problem is most people that I talk to that are impatient and wanting to speed it up, they're focused on steps 7 through 11. How do I get really cheap credit and put it in Forex and make money off of it? Okay, who's seen that one recently? All over Facebook. Let me give you a bunch of free credit. You can stick it in the stock market. I'm not financially responsible when you blow out and you still got to pay off the credit card, but I'll hook you up. Or they're looking at how do I reduce my tax? And it's like, bro, you got to have income before you have taxes. All right. Most people on this note, most people don't realize there's a difference between standard deductions and itemized deductions. And I forget the numbers right now, but I think the standard deduction is like $14,000 or $18,000 for a single individual. Could you fact check me on that? 24,000 for a single or for family? For single. So what that means, those of you that are like, man, I'm going to just, deduct all this stuff off. You would have to spend more than $24,000 in deductible expenses to even make a dent because the government gives you $24K right off the top. So that's not going to happen unless you first did the income. You'd have to have enough money to spend $24,000 before you can actually deduct $24,000. So people are focused on that. They're focused on investments and all of this exciting stuff. And how do I go fast and buy all these products and make all this stuff happen? And they're not doing the basic foundation of, did I make the decision? Am I in financial control? Am I behaving the right way with money? And because they're not, they're never going to get there. So, this is just part one of tonight's message. And I want to hit you really quick with, if you're doing this plan, here's how you keep the momentum. The first thing you do is you need to remind yourself daily of why you're doing it. Okay, and I've been in the position where I've forgotten why I'm doing it, and it's really hard to keep doing it if you don't remember there was a target. Okay, I remember last year, Lexi, you remember when we got in that fight? And Lexi was all pissed off, and she's like upset, and like I reminded her we had goals. Excuse me. I reminded her we had goals, and we both busted out laughing. And the reason why is she thought I just thoroughly enjoyed working 16 hours a day and not hanging out with friends and not going on trips. Like she's like, I thought this was what life was going to be like forever. Like she forgot we have like a 10-year target. We're paying the price now so we can achieve those goals. So if you don't remind yourself of those goals, that's where you're going to go to. You're going to turn into tunnel vision. You're going to get very task oriented. Everything is going to become hard work and labor, and you're not thinking about goals and achievement and purpose. So you have to remind yourself of that daily. And when I would say remind yourself, it's not like, oh yeah, you're actually writing it down. You're reminding yourself. You're putting a visual in front of you. Next step, you actually need to commit to situations with your time, money, and relationships that will negatively impact you if you were to fail or give up. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is the decision maker and the deciding factor. Okay, I'm going to commit to the degree with my time, money, and relationships that if I quit on my goal, my time will be negatively affected. I will lose money. I will lose relationships. Think about it. I'm in that position right now. If I don't make enough money, I can't pay any of these guys. I can't follow through for my clients. I can't pay rent. I can't keep lights on. So I committed to that because I knew if I didn't, then I would go backwards. So I committed to something where I knew I have to go produce now. Because if I don't, I'm letting myself down. I'm letting my time, my money, these relationships all go to waste, and they will never come back. You have to be willing to make that kind of commitment. Most people, they live in fear. Like they know the bad side. They're like, oh, I'm not going to be lazy, but I'm also not going to go all the way over to the extreme because I don't want anything bad to happen. Okay, well, if you hang out in the middle the entire time, what happens, Nano? Something bad's going to happen. Like that is the bad thing you're trying to avoid, and you're doing it. You're staying in the middle doing nothing. So you have to make those kind of commitments. And this is like, when you think about top 1% wealth, you think about, I talked about, Branson and you think about Bezos. The thing that I see that is different between Branson and Bezos is Branson is chill and has bleach hair and owns an island and does all this stuff. Bezos, he's a freaking just like maniac. He's still bald little guy with a tie and a shirt, shows to work every day, same schedule. Like you don't see him doing all the leisurely stuff you see Branson doing. Like I think Branson, I'm like, that's a chill homeboy. I would hang out with that guy. Right? But I think Bezos, and I'm like, that's a guy that I would hire to build a business with me because he's a machine. That's all he does. That's all he thinks about. Okay. And that's where you have to be like, you realize Bezos probably like committed himself to the point where if he didn't do those things, something bad would happen. And now he just operates that way all the time. Okay. What was it? I don't know the number, but like the first how many years Amazon wasn't profitable? He raised all this money. Imagine raising all this money from shareholders, promising a return, and it's something ridiculous like 5 years or some long period of time where they didn't make money. Okay, that's a commitment of time, money, and relationships. Those shareholders were people he knew that gave him money. That was his time he was spending on that project. There's his capital, other people's capital involved. At that level, Bezos can't quit. Doesn't matter how bad things are going, that guy has to keep going because he made that commitment. Those who make that commitment to that degree are going to end up at that level. Those who don't, like the simplest way to put it is you've got too many plan Bs. You've got too many options. If you get too many options, you're not going to make it. So as we're wrapping up here, you need to remove all distractions at all costs. You need a daily list of targets. This is a big one. Okay. If you have ambiguous goals, but not a daily list of doable targets, you're not going to get there. You have to be looking at, all right, let's say I'm making 40,000 a month and I'm trying to get to 80. I can't just be like 40 to 80, 40 to 80. And that's the, like 40 turns into 45, turns into 50, turns into 55, and it's increments. And then there's small little targets. How many people am I talking to? How much money am I setting? All of this stuff happens in increments, and those are your daily targets. And then the final one is you need to level up your friends and family. Now, notice I put this one last. The reason I put this one last is it's the one that people first blame. I can't do it because I have a negative spouse or my buddies, this and that, and my family, this and that. First off, before you blame them, check out the stuff you're doing and not doing. If you're not doing the stuff we talked about tonight, it's not your wife's fault. It's not your husband's fault. Okay, it's not your buddy's fault. It's not any of that stuff. It's you don't behave the right way with money. Okay, now if you start behaving the right way with money and you don't go get around big thinkers and big doers, that will cause a problem. That'll start to pull you back. But that's like the cherry on top. That's the thing you do at the end once you've actually leveled yourself up. Like if I'm trying to level up and I am going to go try and hang out with Bezos, I need to skill up before the guy would even want to spend time with me. So for you to think I'm not going fast enough because of the people I'm spending time around, yet you're not covering your own bases, like it's idiotic of you to think that those people would even want anything to do with you that you're trying to level up with right now. Get your skills figured out. Then they're going to be like, dude, this guy's a player. I'm going to go spend time and network and build with him. Not, this guy's needy and not achieving and he wants a mentor. Okay, this isn't Instagram. It's totally different, right? So here's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to wrap up here. This is called the speed of wealth, and we will have this infographic sent out on our email campaigns. But this breaks down fast wealth versus slow or no wealth. That's been our topic tonight. And really, again, guys, it comes down to behavior. It's not anything other than that. How do you behave? What do you decide to do on a daily basis with your money, with your finances, with your goals? So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for tuning in. Do we have any final questions tonight? Just crickets. Everyone logged off on this one.
It took more than an hour, so I kind of had to restart it.
Okay. Anything on Facebook?
No questions.
No questions.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you. Make sure you check us out. If you would like to learn more about what we do, go to sacredaccount.com. We will be back with part 2 next Friday, 6 p.m. We'll talk to you all again soon. Like, share, and subscribe.